Hi guys, well, welcome back to the channel, and you join me in episode 2 of the Ultimate Track Guide series, the series where I'm giving you all the information, the tips and tricks to improve your lap times on Assetto Corsa Competition. Today we're at Paul Ricard, as you can see, a highly technical track and one that a lot of people give up on extremely quickly. So if you're a fan of this content and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button, click the like, into it we go. What we're going to do today is we're going to break down the sectors individually and then we're going to view them from above, and then we'll see the whole lap together. So the first sector, then braking on the 100-meter board, second gear into this first corner, take slightly later apex, and you think you can take a lot of curve as well, the short shift into third, use the throttle to stabilise your car over that crest, and away you go. It seems like a simple chicane, this one again, but let's watch it. And let's look for this braking point. On the right hand side you've got a big curve and the 100-meter board, and that's where you're aiming to start braking. Okay, so just to the end of this curve, just where this cone start, that's really the time for you to start braking. We're going to drop down into second gear, take a slightly later apex than you think you probably should. It's quite a conventional 90-degree left-hander here, but what we need to keep in mind is that we're setting ourselves up for the exit. It's not about how much speed we carry through this first half, it's about using the throttle here to stabilise the car, short shift into third gear. You see I'm sort of on 60-70% throttle here, just as we're on that crest, avoiding the curb as much as you can on the inside, but it's going to unsettle the car and let the car run out by just opening the steering a touch. You see those boards on the left hand side, they're the track limit board. There's what you should be aiming for, and we're through into the next little section. So what are we actually faced with in this first sort of couple of corners then? Like I said, it's a pretty conventional 90-degree left, but we've got some off camber going up the hill into the right hander, so you need to take a slightly later apex in this first half to set up appropriately for the right hand corner T2, remembering that camber is, although it's guiding you to for the first half of the corner, you've got an awkward curb on the inside. You need to just keep that little bit of throttle on just to stabilise the back end of the car, and it's very heavy on aero this first sort of exit of the first section. So again, we're looking for that 100-meter board at the braking zone, stabilising on the exit and just apexing just slightly later than we think we probably should. Remember to keep that power on, just slightly opening up the steering, aiming for the boards on the left hand side, using a lot of curb. A lot of people take this first section too slowly and they compromise their exit all the way down this next sort of mini straight, we'll call it. So let's look at that again in slow-mo, braking on the 100-meter board, slightly wider on entry than you usually would, slightly later on the apex, half power here, short shifting, just a tiny lift to get the nose of the car in, and then straight back on that power, sort of 2/3 power, and as soon as you can see the exit of the corner, back onto full power. So let's watch that again in full speed, all the way over to the right-hand side of the track here. We're in fifth gear, over 145 miles an hour, we're braking 150 miles an hour, so we're braking down, bang, 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 through the gears. Second gear just to get the nose of the car turned in. Don't clobber those curves on the inside of the first corner, the yellow ones, as you will get penalty. And let's just pause it here. You've got a bit of time to think before you go into this next section. We're looking for the 100-meter board on the left hand side. See all those black markings on the road? We're trying to cover as much speed as we can through this first right-hander, keeping a constant radius through the second left. I like to take a slightly tighter line into that tight right-hand corner because you don't really need to set up for a straight until you're exiting this corner. This is the key corner, and we're going to delve into that in a lot more detail. And obviously when you're through the left-hander, it's completely flat and you're onto the rest of the straight. So again, we're here, pause, we're looking for the 100-meter board on the left-hand side. There are some black markings on the left, as you could just see them above. You can actually have the left-hand side of the car all the way onto this blue tarmac, using those epileptic stripes to gain entry, a wider entry into this right hand. You can see how wide we are. The turning point's actually on the 50-meter board, carrying as much speed as you can through the right hander, a little bit of throttle on, and then it's all about keeping a constant radius and trying to keep as much speed as possible around this left hander. Early on the power, short shift down into first gear. I turn in a lot earlier than a lot of people here because I don't think you need to set up well. It's not like you're taking a wide line in to take a long straight after it. This is the corner with the straight. You see I paused it on the apex just there, keeping a little bit of power on throughout the corner just to stabilise the back end. Remember, we're running pretty low aero here, as I'll run through the setup at the end of the video. Let's look at it from above then. Look at that 100 meter board all the way on the blue tarmac, keeping as much speed, a little bit of the throttle on, constant radius here, keep you turning very stable, back on the power for a little short sprint of power there, early on the throttle on the right hand side. Now patience, half throttle, 3/4 throttle, and now we're on full throttle. Go over to the right hand side of the track and obviously take us as smooth a line down the straight onto the straight as possible. And now we have, well, we've got a lot of time to think about what we've just done in the first sector, and also wondering how we're going to cope with what we do when we get to the end of the straight. We're going to be doing over 170 miles an hour. And we've got to be able to pick our braking point absolutely perfectly. Which what we're looking out for is the curb on the left-hand side here. Brake slightly after the end of the curb, turn in, avoiding the track marker limit on the inside. You can run a little bit wider out than I did. Now this is such a crucial corner, and we'll delve into this in a bit more detail. So I get a snap of oversteer halfway through. So crucial that you keep the car stable through that triple right-hander. Let's look at it in more detail now. So you've got the 100 meter board. It's the start of the curb just after it, and we're going to dab the brakes, get the nose in and of the car turned in, a little bit off the throttle. Then we're going to be immediately back onto sort of three-quarters, 80% throttle. And then you see there, I'll just pause it on the apex. We're just starting to get back to full power. You can run all the way over this curb. You can see where those track limit markers are here. And we're immediately turning our attention to the right-hand side of the track. You see where the two walls change colour? That's your braking point for the next corner. A lot of people search for it, so you've got that lamp post there as well. It's really about trying to think about where you're braking for this. And it's not an exact braking point, really. It's more of a braking zone. Trying to keep the car stable here using sort of half throttle. Have a couple of stabs of it, which are a little bit of time to my lap, as you can see through there, but it's all about keeping it stable. Look at this glorious corner. I know it's a bit mesmerising with all of the lines, but you've got this sort of double, triple apex approach here. So where the car is on the right-hand side, that's the first one. You see there's some dark areas on the curb and the inside. We're going to run it all the way out wide and then cut back in for the little short straight afterwards. So look at it in slow-mo again. So see these dark markers on the curb. You're sort of aiming for just after them, really. There's a horrible bump, which is really the reason I get that oversteer. And smooth down the gears. It's not about slamming on the brakes. You see I barely use the brake on the entry to that corner. It's all about smoothly does it on exit as well. A key corner for this track. So we're going to look at that section again. Over the curb, nice and smooth, full power. Run a little bit wider than I did there. Look for this braking zone. Nice and smooth on the brake. You see I'm barely using the brake, maybe 20% max through there. Nice and smooth, sort of 40-50%, gaining that momentum on the power into this final section. One final time, because this is such a crucial section. You see I'm full power on that track marker on the inside. Looking for where it changes, the wall on a little bit of braking, keeping the car stable, using the throttle just to keep it stable as well, to stop that oversteer once more. Remember, we've got very little area which we'll run through later. We're into this final section, and I've paused it just here because there's a really key sort of braking point that we'll run through in a second. But just you've got to channel your inner late apex mind here. That is the ultimate late apex corner. Keeping it tight on the right hand side, you can run over this curb here for a braking point just after the end of the curb. A little bit of understeer on entry, running it as tight as you can to the curb to get a better exit into this, better entry into this final corner, and then away we are across the line. So what are we faced with here? If we were looking at the top corner there, which isn't actually part of the track, it's one of the support race tracks, it's a pretty conventional left-hand corner, but here we're apexing so late. I can't stress this enough, is you've got to channel that inner late apex, and you can't see the apex of corner until you're almost upon it, so you need to go wide, and then cut back in. So we're looking for the cones over on the left-hand side as a braking point. The first cone is really ideal. And actually, when we hit the brakes, we're looking to aim for the left hand of these two cones in front of us. And some people like to take a much tighter line here, but I just think it compromises you on exit. And the best I can do for a marker for when you put the power down, as you see I'm just getting on the power, there's a little orange cone or marker here on the left hand side of that red dot. Just keep an eye out for that, and if you see it and you're not on the power, then you've gone too far. Really, it's about just sensing that. keeping as tight as we can then onto the right hand side of the track, and actually we can go over this curb just before we get into the braking zone to keep that braking zone straighter. Just break this final corner down. There's a few different lines. I like to take that later apex line, which really sets you up nicely for the last corner, but really it depends on your braking, how smooth it is, how much speed you're carrying from the previous corner. So late apex is on the first red dot, which sends you over more to the left hand side of the track going into the final corner, which is definitely a good approach. And if you were on your own on the track, that's the one I would take. If you're defending from someone, or you're a little bit nervous, then I'd take the green line, so apexing a tiny little bit earlier, maybe scrubbing off some speed later in the corner. That sends you into the middle of the track going into the last corner. And then it's a slightly tighter line, but you don't compromise your exit too much. So again, that little bit of understeer, apexing slightly in between the green and the red lines, and taking a tight line. I need to get on the power slightly early. You can run further out on the left hand side of the track into the last corner. Let's look at it in full speed. So over the curb on the right hand side, we're using this braking zone on the blue tarmac to straighten that entry into this second last corner. Into second gear, just use the throttle just to stabilise the car through here. See that sort of 40-50% throttle that I like to use to stabilise it. We're aiming for the dark markers on this curb here. Swing as far over to the left hand side of the track as you can, but it's okay if you're in the middle like I am here. Do not clobber the curb on the inside. You lose so much momentum going down the straight. And on the power as early as you can run all the way out to those yellow markers on the left hand side, and away we are over the start finish line for a 1:53.4. So what I wanted to do was run through the lap in full speed, no aerial shots, just in car view, with the telemetry up as well, with the braking and accelerating markers, just to run through again some key points. Later apex on this first corner, it's all about the exit to T2 in third gear on the power early to stabilise the car. A little bit of composure, looking for the 100-metre board and the dart markings on the left hand side here. Go over the dart markings, turn in on the 50-metre board as much speed as you can carry by clobbering that curve. Now stick in this groove on the left hand side, over to left hand side of the track, but turn in earlier than you think, because you can compromise your exit on that corner, because this is the key corner, but using that throttle to stabilise the car. And now we get a bit of a breather. This is a flat left. We're going to be going all the way up to about 175 miles an hour ish, and you've just got time to think about where you're going to pick your braking point for this corner, this right hander at the end of the straight. So actually in endurance race, it's quite nice to have this brake and composure. A little bit stressful if you've got someone behind you, obviously, but we're looking for the bridge, then we're looking for the 100-metre board and the start of the curb on the left hand side. We're going to dab the brakes, get the nose in off throttle, and as soon as we feel comfortable it's turned in, we're back on the throttle, full power as soon as we get to the apex, so that corner can run all the way out wide. Braking nice and early here and stable, barely any brakes, using a little bit of throttle to stabilise the car. If you've got not very much downforce on the rear of the car, or you're running too much rake, you'll probably get a kick of oversteer like I did there. The ultimate late apex corner here, look for the orange marker, full power when you see it, run all the way over the curb. It's nice black markings for you to see there, sticking on the right hand side of the track. Try and straighten the braking as much as you can, all the way on the blue tarmac, keeping that throttle on to stabilise, looking for the black markings again, all the way over to the left hand side of the track to get a straighter exit coming out at the last corner. Guys, we're going to run through the setup now, but in the meantime, I'd really appreciate it if you did like the content to hit that subscribe button and give the video a like. It's the start of many of these track guides that we're doing across GT3 and GT4. I think it's really important to show you guys some of the things that I learn on this game, especially as I'm relatively new, but I've managed to pick it up quite quickly. So I'm really excited to do the GT4 track guides when the cars come out. And I'm going to be working through the GT3 ones as I start to partake in more and more series on this game. But as I said, any support is appreciated. If you'd like to like and subscribe, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Leave a comment on what you thought of the video, any tips and hints you think I should add. I'm going to be doing a separate series on overtaking and defending manoeuvres around these tracks as well, so you'll get to build up a picture of how to race each track as well as go fast through them. Guys, until next time, I'm going to leave the telemetry file in the description below, so if you want to compare your times with that. But until next time, see you later.